So our final of our three presentations will be by Rob Simmons from the Fishbourne Roman Palace, and Rob is going to be introduced by our final judge, Ruth Sloss. Thanks, Ruth.
Thanks, Sarah. We felt that this project was a great example of making existing collections data work harder to achieve entirely new information and insights. It also preserved multiple different sources of data, uncovered data that previously had been thought lost, safeguarding that data for future use. And it added on a new layer of geographical data to give those new insights. We admired how the solution didn't require anything fancy or expensive or bespoke. Instead, it used open source free software, and it created a framework that can incorporate and manage new data ongoing and be accessed by researchers anywhere in the world. So to tell you more about it, I will pass over to Rob.
Ruth, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to assume everybody can hear me. I'm Rob Simmons. I'm the curator down at Fishbourne Roman Palace. That's probably enough about me. The much more important people for this project were three students who did all of the work for it. The thing is, I don't have the expertise or the time to deliver a project like this, and unfortunately, our crack team of students did. We have Keir Broughton and Georgina Buckland, who are both undergraduates from Bournemouth University, and Miles Clifford, who I think is on this call, is a PhD student from Reading University, and they absolutely did all of the heavy lifting. I calculated the project took probably about 10 months full-time work to deliver. So thanks to them. Now, about Fishbourne, this is us. We're down near the south coast. I think the strapline is the largest domestic Roman building north of the Alps. In fact, bigger than Buckingham Palace. A very, very large structure, early Roman structure, consisting of, as you can see on the slide there, 4 wings built around a big formal garden. It was excavated in the 1960s. And it's now a museum and visitor centre. You can come and visit. Please do. You'd be very welcome. And if you did visit, you would meet our mosaics. This is what we're famous for. This is one of the 29 mosaics. Obviously, I obviously chose the nicest one. It's a famous Cupid on the dolphin floor. Like I say, one of 29, and they're mosaics, and they're lovely. What's more lovely, in my opinion, are our collections. Not quite so famous for our collections, but this is a resource that consists of all of the archaeological finds found from within 1 mile of the palace since 1960. I reckon we've got about 300,000 objects in that collection there, spread across about 3,000 boxes, and housed in the top right there. You can see we have a bespoke collections store, and the collections have supported, since I started about 19 years ago, 450 separate research projects. So you can see what we've got here is a really powerful and valuable research tool. The reason it's a powerful research tool is because, so unsurprisingly, the collection is supported by a really rich foundation of collections data, and it's everything you might expect. We've got the original excavation records from the 1960s. We've got our digital catalogue, our modes catalogue. We have photographs, we have drawings, we have publications, and we've got a sort of raft of specialist data which has come out of some of these 450 research projects that I mentioned. So sort of like specialist identification type data. So we know for each object, we know what it is. We know its size, its shape, mundane things, its color, potentially where it was made, has been published, the kind of things you'd expect to find on a modes catalogue. Where is it in the store? Has it been studied before? But also, thanks to our specialists, to our researchers, we might have some chemical information that you wouldn't normally expect, or sort of bizarre information like it's a bone. Has it been butchered? What does the butchery look like, and what does that mean? In addition to all that sort of object-based data, we've got a lot of information about the find spot. If something was found, every object has got a number written on it, which relates to its find spot. And using the top left there, the trench notebooks, we can interrogate those to find out what that fine spot meant. Is it a pit? Is it a ditch? Is it a grave or a rubbish dump? So thanks to all of this, we can ask quite sort of, well, I'm going to say sophisticated. You won't believe me. This is where it gets ultra nerdy. But we could ask of our collections, can we look at all the pits, all the Roman pits? Have they got bones in? And does the average size of bone fragment in each pit vary? And how does that vary across the site? Okay, that might sound like a really odd thing to want to know. But if you're an archaeologist, we get mad for this kind of question. This will tell us stuff about how the site was formed and potentially even how the site was cleaned by the Romans. With different areas being cleaned in different ways, and what does that tell us about the way different spaces were being used? So we can get to this data, but unfortunately, because we're dealing with often paper records, we're dealing with modes that doesn't talk to access, we're dealing with sort of random spreadsheets that were created 10, 15 years ago. None of these forms of data actually talk to each other. So to get that kind of information about how the site was cleaned, it would take months and months of work. And as a result, it doesn't get done. We can't and don't ask those questions. So that's our problem. I've just laid it out for you. We've got the data, but we can't really search it in a very sophisticated way. We've got a mixture of digital and analog data. We do have sort of spatial data, but it's not really, interrogating that data is more art than science. It really is. We have a lack of digital backup. Our analog records, our paper records, and especially the drawn records, the site plans, we didn't have digital backups for those, which is actually quite that's the kind of thing you lose sleep at night, trust me. And also, if you want to interrogate any of this data, because it's spread all over the site physically, in different buildings sometimes, you've got to visit if you want to ask your question about how the site was cleaned and the size of bones in pits. But we do have an additional problem that's not on that slide, is there's a really bothersome lack of chronological information. So, take our pits example, say we could work out how cleaning was varying across the site. Wouldn't it just be so much more interesting to see if that varied through time? And what does that tell us? Does that tell us that that there's been a change in the use of the space, or an economic change, and people aren't looking after the place as much? You can, with chronological data, you really add this sort of third dimension. So the solution, that's the problem. The solution, first and foremost, was to digitize those notebooks that we just saw. And that immediately started to create our digital backup. So that's one of our problems that's been solved. And in doing so, and this was one of the best days of my career for the last 5 or 10 years, we found this. Wow, this is the chronological data that we never knew was there. I've been told it existed, but I'd assumed it wasn't on site and had been lost. But it doesn't look like much. But trust me, this tells us the approximate date of every single archaeological deposit on the site. So that alone made the entire project worth doing, in my opinion. And then we've solved that other problem of lack of chronological information. We took our digitized notebooks and our digitized site plans, and we created a floor plan of the palace, a digital floor plan of the palace. And there you can see we've got our 4 wings built around our formal garden. That's what the palace looks like in plan. And over that, we can now start to, and I won't get into the ins and outs of how we actually did this. I say we, all of this was Miles here. And I was sat in my office while this was going on. But we can overlay the locations, the relative locations of all of the archaeological features on the site. Now, I mentioned earlier on, all of our objects have got a number on it that relates to where they were found. That they relate to the archaeological feature. So if we know that that coin X was found in pit number 73, we now know where pit number 73 is in relation to the plan of the palace. So we can then plot where it came from, where it was found on that plan. So we straight away are able to start pulling together all of this data from different data sets into one place, and we start plotting them in one place. So that dispersal of our data is starting to disappear. To do this, we used QGIS, Geographical Information System. Most important thing about that is it's free, and you can download it. I am not even remotely an expert. I can assure you that Miles is, and yeah, we couldn't have done this without his expertise. But because it's free, we can then, it's possible, you don't need £1,000 worth of software to use this tool. So I can stick the whole tool, which consists of very many files, in a folder, and we transfer it around the world, and people can fire it up and start asking their own questions without having to come to Fishbourne. So that we've solved that last problem of people having to come onto site to interrogate the data set. This is the first. This is super nerdy. I don't apologize. This was brilliant fun to do. Okay, this is the first query that we carried out. I'm almost embarrassed to admit it. It's a heat map of where the chicken bones from Fishbourne Roman Palace were found, overlaid on top of the floor plan of the building. And okay, what a weird thing to want to do. But immediately, top left-hand corner there, you can see it's like Chickenopolis. You're ankle deep in chicken bones here. This is actually quite a significant finding. I won't bore you with why, but chickens were, in the Roman period, considered deities, and to find, such a concentration of them in one place is surely significant. And there in the top right-hand corner of the courtyard garden, there's another little bit of a spike as well, and nobody was expecting that. I'd be quite interested to find out what that's all about. We can interrogate the database to find out more. And I only realized while putting this presentation together that the east wing, so the wing on the left, sorry, that's the west wing, the wing on the left, chicken bones seem to respect it. There's no chicken being eaten in the west wing. What's that all about? No. But we couldn't have answered any of these questions or asked any of these questions without this tool. So it's a fabulously valuable tool. Really, this is just a start. We can now start to overlay any information, any new data that has any sort of spatial element to it. So air photography, we can now start to see where finds are coming from in relation to the modern landscape. We can even upload sort of conservation information on mosaics. Are there cracks, salt, are there any algal blooms, any algal growth? We can map that and see how that is changing through time as well. Condition monitoring, the light levels at different times of the day, different parts of the site, we can start putting that on here. It's not archaeology, this is about museums now. This isn't about boring, Roman archaeology nerdy stuff. But anything, absolutely anything with a spatial element can be loaded onto this system, and the system will act as a way of organizing that data, making it accessible, and sort of curating it for future, if you like. So that's where we're at the moment. We have next steps since we in the last couple of 3 weeks really. We're starting to talk. Well, I sent a copy of the tool of the GIS to somebody. I have no idea where he lives, but it's 880 megabytes, so it's quite a big file. But he's using it to start to create a 3D digital reconstruction of the palace itself. So that's just a completely random spin-off of one of the things we can do with this model now that we have it. We're talking to Bournemouth University again. Hopefully they're going to do a geophysics project, and their geophysical data can now go onto our GIS tool, and we can see where chicken bones are coming from in relationship to geophysical anomalies. Somebody somewhere is going to do a dissertation on that one there, no doubt. And in a couple of weeks, we have a student from Newcastle, a PhD student from Newcastle, coming down to the site. She's looking at our window glass, and she's going to start creating a huge amount of new information about window glass, including chemical information, and that can all be loaded onto this, and we'll be able to see the distribution of window glass and window glass with different chemistries around the site and at different time periods, and what does that tell us about the evolution of the site, and were they recycling, and where were they recycling? Things like that is all possible. Over to you, Sarah.